Jinkies.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Throwback Thursdays, right here with Keith Harris, myself, and of course the wonderful Nikki, Clarke, and of course we have a very special guest on the show with us today. Nikki, if you do the introductions, please.
Absolutely. It's my huge pleasure to introduce a former student of mine. She's the author of Key to Success. She is in the real estate business, and she's also venturing out into a lending establishment, and we're going to talk about all of that. Please welcome Kirin Singh on the show.
Thank you so much, Nikki and Keith, for having me on the air. I love it.
Oh, no, you're more than welcome, more than welcome. It's been a long time coming, and glad that you have some time to share with us. I know you're a very busy woman. We know each other from way back, and can you just talk a little bit about your beginnings as a teacher to where you kind of left off, like where you are now?
Well, I've always kind of been in real estate from a young age because of my family, so it's kind of in my blood. But I did leave the real estate world and dabbled into teaching, and that's where I had the pleasure of mentoring under yourself. And I went and I taught kindergarten for a year. And though children are, a true blessing, as I have two small ones of my own, but, I really felt that my passion and my ambition in life was to really take real estate and financial awareness to a whole new plateau with our up-and-coming society, right? We're a society that we're making more money than we've ever made, and we're more in debt than we've ever been. So how do we change that?
Now that's a really serious dichotomy. You're making more, but you have less.
Yeah, because we're living in a culture where everything is based on plastic, right? So people don't know how to budget anymore. People don't know what a checkbook is anymore. And so they're just spending, and not really looking at their future. And, here in the Canadian market, they're actually looking at increasing the retirement age. And yet people at the age of 65 are still not comfortable retiring even at that age after working 40, 50 years, right?
So because there's just not enough in the pension, if there is a pension for them.
Well, this is it, right? We've been brainwashed to think, don't worry, we can live off our pension. But if we really educate ourselves, what does a pension mean, and what really does it secure in our monthly expenses?
Okay, so how do we work our way to financial security? Let's just say I'm just newly graduated. I'm out of college. I'm 20-something. I'm wearing rose-colored glasses, and I'm optimistic about my life. But I need someone like you to come and teach me about managing my money. What would you tell me?
Well, that's exactly it. Knowledge is power, and even if at that age when you're coming out of university or college and you're still a little bit maybe naive as to what to do, gaining the knowledge of what your next steps are as a financial person is the number one thing. So you would meet someone like myself, and I would say to you, what are your expenses right now? Are you still living at home? Have you paid off all your student loans? How do you think you're going to do that? And believe it or not, when people are graduating from university, the banks actually go and head start them and say, listen, we're going to give you a line of credit and you can do X, Y, and Z. And that's where people start getting into trouble, because the savvy people will actually use that line of credit and make more money than what the borrowing cost is. And then the not so savvy people who haven't been properly guided are the ones that go and spend it and then have to spend the years trying to pay it back, right? So it's definitely something. Instead of buying all those clothes and those shoes, maybe somebody should think about getting that 5% for your down payment and buy an investment property. Or really, how do you lend your money out using the bank's money and still live at home and live under your parents' roof? No problem.
Okay. That's I was getting ready to ask that question, as a matter of fact. What about those people who, they might not have those high-end jobs. They're just above maybe a certain wage. So, with things being so expensive nowadays, it's going to take them a lot more saving and, a lot more worrying than some other people. Should they totally count themselves out and be discouraged, and just saying, look, I just don't even make enough money to count? Or is there a way that they can actually start to save more money and look forward to things and still get around paying your everyday bills?
Absolutely not. I mean, well, The Key to Success, the book I wrote, is all about not being discouraged no matter what your situation is. So that's number one. Number two, doesn't matter how much money you're making. This country, Canada, of course, is built on immigrants. And, you know, the one thing people don't realize when they come to this country is that it doesn't matter how much money you make, it's how well is your credit. And if people focus on their credit and their credit score, the financial institutions will give you money because they're making money off your money. So now, if you've got someone that's saying, listen, you're not making, you know, $100,000 or $60,000, but I'll give you a line of credit, unsecured or even secured, for anywhere between 3 and 8%, that's where I can come along and say, listen, there's different vehicles that you can invest in that's going to make that return 15%. So you're actually using the bank's money, paying them their little interest, and making a higher interest in return, and making some residual income on a monthly basis without really doing too much. But this is where I go back to the comment that I made about knowledge is power. And there's so many people, even people who are making good money, that have no real clue how to truly make their money work for them.
Right.
Okay. Now, this information, this counseling, these services that you offer, they're under the umbrella of Key Lending, and that's a new venture that you've established. Is that right?
That's right. 3 years I've been doing kind of private lending with some of my investors or real estate investors I've known for quite some time. I've been in real estate as a real estate agent for 16 years, and it's just another great arm to extend out and kind of encompass all that real estate financial wellness together. And so, you know, I play off my name Key and the key to success, and one of the other things is Key Lending, and one of the keys to private lending.
Okay. One of the things that probably some people are curious about, because, you know, life happens, and sometimes going through situations, you may come out of maybe separation or divorce, or maybe losing a job, and your credit that was A1 is now bruised. Can you bounce back from that?
Absolutely. I mean, Key Lending is not just about helping, you know, the rich get rich, or people who are giving their money to lend out at high interest rates. It's also showing people how to borrow money and get themselves back on track. See, one of the problems is that people just use credit cards, but I'll guarantee you 95%, if not more, have no clue how interest is calculated on a credit card. So they're thinking, well, I didn't pay. I just have to pay my monthly fee or my monthly expense, and that's it. But at the end of the day, that interest is being accrued on a daily basis. So when I talk to some clients and I say, listen, yeah, you might be borrowing $50,000 or whatever it is to pay off your credit card debt at a rate of maybe 14 or 15%, at least at the end of the day, you've paid off that debt one stop, and you're still making that money now come because your credit's now growing. Whereas people don't realize you're paying 21, 22%, and it's being incurred every day. So if you're paying, say, $600 a month out of your pocket as interest to borrow that $50,000, that's a lot more paying off your debt than if you were paying $600 a month paying off a $50,000 credit card. You're not even touching the surface of paying off your debt if you're only paying $600, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So we show people on both sides, listen, there's nothing wrong with borrowing and getting yourself back on track, and of course there's nothing wrong with lending as well.
Okay.
Exactly.
Because with the lending, you can expect to get something back at least in return.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody wants to make something at the end of the day, right? And even when you're lending your money, as opposed to it sitting in the bank account making 1%. I was listening to a commercial the other day on the radio that 2% is better than anything. 2% in gold, 2% in coffee, 2% in this, that, next, third, and the other. And it was a bank commercial that you're gaining 2% interest on your money. And I was thinking, wow, this is what really people, you know, the herd mentality, right? This is all we know. And at the end of the day, the banks are the mafia. They take our money and do billions of dollars worth of money to make that money from our hard-earned money. So I think, at my age and with my astute knowledge, I think it's time to kind of change the shift and say, listen, anyone and everyone can do this. You just need to know the right people and have to have the right understanding. And it works with borrowers as well. People get bombarded with debt, and then they feel like they got to go into bankruptcy, or they've got to do proposals. And those are probably the worst things you can do for your credit. So you kind of have to, reach out there and see what other different types of things you can do to get yourself out of that situation without really killing your credit even worse than it already is.
Okay, so say if you want to do a credit checkup, how do you go about doing it without getting yourself in trouble? Because I think you can only check a certain number of times and it's not used against you. Is that right?
That's right. Like if you could go to so many different people and they could hit your credit maybe, 3-4 times in a month, but if it's in that one time frame, then it's okay. But if it's over the year, it definitely will jeopardize your credit, your beacon score. And what people can do is they can actually go to Equifax themselves and go online themselves and pull out their own credit reports and actually have an idea of where they are. So many people get those bank calls or those Enbridge calls or somebody and saying, well, this is on your credit bureau, and they have no idea. But, really and truly, if you miss a bank payment or a credit card payment, the worst kind of payments that people can make, and that yet the most amount of people have, are those cards that are like the Sears cards or the Canadian Tire credit cards. Like, those are the worst credit cards you can ever have, because the minute you miss a payment, they're hitting your credit score. But the banks like the Visa and the MasterCard through the bank institutions, they give you a little bit more leeway because they have a little bit more understanding. But a lot of people, when you pull up their credit report, they're like, what? My beacon score is that low? They have no idea. And again,
something like a Bay shopping spree or something like that, yeah.
Or anything. And the thing is that when you go into a bank to give them the money or put it in your savings account, nobody's sitting with you for half an hour saying, oh, have you thought about this or have you thought about that? Really, if you think about it, even in our school systems, in our high schools, in our colleges, in our universities, who's teaching these young people who are making good money financial awareness? Nobody.
I was just going to ask you that. So I think it's an important, a very important part of the curriculum that should be introduced, financial education. And I think
it would be amazing. I mean, here in the Peel Board, we have a program called the IBT program, which is International Business and Technology for young students, and only 200 students in the whole Peel district get accepted into this program, and they're usually Ivy League students. And I go into these high schools and I mentor these 200 students on financial awareness and what to do and what to look out for, as opposed to going and getting your parents to rent properties when they're going to university or live in residence. How do I help their parents buy a property and rent 5 rooms out and make income that way instead of just giving somebody else the money? And that's the problem, right? The thing is, I've been very blessed with a mother who taught me everything that I know. And through my divorce, through my single motherhood and raising my 2 kids, I've been very blessed with that knowledge that that's what's kept me, keeping afloat. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about it, because a lot of people just don't really know what to do or how to teach their children. And we're getting into a culture where more and more young people are growing up and they feel this sense of entitlement that, oh, my parents are going to die and I'm going to get the house, or I'm going to get this and I'm going to get that. And it's just such a sad mentality to have, and we wonder why our society is changing so much. And I think that's really one of the real core root to the problem of how society is changing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you teach your children? How do you get them to, invest wisely, or do you have them like on an allowance when they do good deeds around the house?
I do. I completely believe in the reward system. Some people might say that's not the way to go. Too bad. I do. That's the whole way of life. When you do a good job, you get paid more or whatever it is. But I definitely have them on a reward system. I also teach them exactly what I'm doing, why I work so hard. For instance, my mother is actually picking up my children right now, so I could have this interview with you guys without hearing mommy in the background. So they know what I do. And as a matter of fact, my son is turning 8 on Saturday, and I kid you not, he'll go to his friend's house and tell their parents, oh, do you have to sell your house? Or do you need to know anything about selling a house? Because my mommy owns her own real estate brokerage. Like, look at that. They're so proud, and they're so, but they're young, but I encourage them to know exactly what I'm doing. They have a copy of my book in their bedroom themselves. They may not understand it, but they see my picture on it, and they just think it's great. And, I am going to be very strict with them and very diligent on what they do with their money and how they're going to work. And my kids will be working at the age of 15 and going out and doing newspaper routes or whatever it is, no matter how successful I am, because nothing should be given on a silver platter, right? So
yeah, that's amazing.
Well, they just appreciate it more when they have to work for it, and that's the way it's been for me. I started working when I was 17, so anything I have, I bought it. You know what I mean? Like, it's it's completely the total independent thing, and I teach my children the same thing, and it's working. It's working well.
Yeah, I think like women like us, or even just parents like us who really encourage that, you'll start to see a difference. But I don't know about you, but I'm starting to see such a huge sense of entitlement. And I was saying to someone in the school board that I feel that we're not guiding our children to become entrepreneurs. We're driving them to just be workers, and that's not really what society should be.
Yeah, Sorry, Nikki. That's one of the things that I often talk about, and we talk about a lot, is the day and age that we're in now. It's really important, like you say, for people to encourage their children to be entrepreneurs instead of workers. Because nowadays, look, it's harder to find jobs. You're not getting paid as much, so that is very important, and it's good. It's good that you stress that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think, for sure. I mean, a lot of people feel like, oh, well, we need a sense of security. But really, people aren't even staying in their jobs. I mean, going back to our parents or whatnot, they've stayed in their profession 30 years. Now you're lucky if you have an employee working for you longer than 3 years.
Yep.
And, I think people don't realize that there truly is enough money to go around. You don't need to be a multimillionaire. You just need to be comfortable. And the satisfaction of being able to do what you want, when you want it, and be responsible and kind of put that ownership on you, there's something, money can't buy that. You can't even learn that
kind of satisfaction. You're right.
No, and you can't even learn that in school. I was at the office until 4 o'clock, and I said, guys, I gotta go. I'm on an interview at 5:30. Let's close down the shop, because they know when they need to work and when not to work. And I think, when people know that they're making commissions or they're making bonuses on whatever they're doing, and they feel that sense of fulfillment that, I'm doing this and I have to hustle, you see a totally different personality trait. And I think that's what I would love to gear towards. If I can teach people financial awareness and financial independence, hopefully people will be more secure and confident in themselves, that they can say, listen, you know what? I can go open up that business. I can do this. I can do, go online.
Buy that house.
That's it. Like, come on, right? So,
okay,
I'm getting a little, you can tell I'm getting a little
you got that fire in your belly. No, I love that, and that's really, what it's all about. And I can tell this is something you love, because you're extremely passionate about it, and it's contagious. Yeah. And people want to be around someone who is genuine and can offer that information from the heart. Because you've been there, and you know very well how to impart that information. So, I appreciate all the gems that you've been sharing with us today.
Absolutely. Nikki Clarke spoke for the both of us in, saying that we are extremely honored that you joined us on the show today. A lot of wonderful pieces of information, a lot of different tools that you shared with us as well as the listeners on how to get that financial life in order, how to stay positive, how to stay confident, and just kind of go for what you know. Also, how to get the kids on the right track to make sure that they stay focused and kind of worry about what's going on in their future as well. Just know you're welcome right back here on the show anytime you like. We love to hear from you again. As for all the listeners out there, make sure you go pick up Kirin Singh's book. She's the author of Key to Success. You need to get the book. You need to go from the front all the way to the back. You don't want to miss anything. It's detrimental and it's essential. All right. So you guys don't go nowhere. You listen to Throwback Thursdays with Nikki, Clarke, and Keith Harris. We'll be right back after these messages.